Good afternoon, Noetic listeners, and thank you, Luke Johnson, for having me today. The poem I've chosen to go over this blessedly cold Saturday in January, it snowed last night, y'all, like for real, in Georgia, was written by Emily Pauline Johnson. Being ever the explorer, I'm always looking for new poets to introduce not only myself to, but those who listen. I will first provide her biography, then her poem, and my analysis. According to Wikipedia, she was born in 1861 as the youngest of four children of Emily Susanna Howells Johnson, 1824-1898, a native of England, and George Henry Martin Johnson, 1816 to 1884, a Mohawk hereditary clan chief. Also on this website is this curious note about her and her siblings' place in society. Because the children were born to a native father, by British law, they were legally considered Mohawk and wards of the British Crown. But under the Mohawk kinship system, because their mother was not a Mohawk, they were not born into a tribal clan. They were excluded from important aspects of the tribe's matrilineal culture. When her father died, and that of course was in 1898, and without any prospects of marriage, Johnson turned to writing. As the Poetry Foundation notes, Johnson developed a dual persona for her performances, wearing the costume of a native princess for the first half and an English drawing room gown for the second. She toured widely for 17 years, gaining international recognition with primarily non-native audiences. She adopted the name of, and I'm going to try to say this name, Dagi Ion Wage, from her great-grandfather, which means double life. From her biography on biography.ca, as her reputation grew, she began in 1886 to sign her work as both E. Pauline Johnson and Dagi Ion Wage, accentuating her native identity and developing the Indian persona that would serve her very well. At the same time, however, her double signature suggests the complexity of Johnson's location as a writer and performer of mixed blood who spoke from both inside and outside native experience. On the one hand, she continually emphasized the nobility of certain values that she associated with native communities, particularly respect of nature and generosity of spirit. On the other, she frequently lamented the stereotyping of native figures, as, for example, in her essay, A Strong Race Opinion on the Indian Girl in Modern Fiction, despite the fact that a number of her own poems, such as Dondine, appear to contribute to that mythology. This side goes on to say that, though she wasn't successful at first, she attained some success before passing away from complications due to breast cancer on March 7th of 1913. In fact, back to the Wikipedia site, her funeral, the largest until then in Vancouver history, was held on what would have been her 52nd birthday. Her ashes were buried near Sawash Rock in Stanley Park. In 1922, a cairn was erected at the burial site with an inscription reading in part, in memory of one whose life and writings were an uplift and a blessing to our nation. With all this background information out of the way, allow me to read the poem I've chosen today. Penseroso by Emily Pauline Johnson. Soulless is all humanity to me tonight. My keenest longing is to be alone, alone with God's gray earth that seems pulse of my pulse and consort of my dreams. Tonight, my soul desires no fellowship or fellow being. Crave I but to slip through space on space, till flesh no more can bind, and I may quit for I my fellow kind. Let me but feel athwart my cheek the lash of whipping wind, but hear the torrent dash adown the mountain steep. 'Twere more my choice than touch of human hand than human voice. Let me but wander on the shore night stilled, drinking its darkness till my soul is filled. the breathing of the salt sea on my hair, my outstretched hands but grasping empty air. Let me but feel the pulse of nature's soul, a throb on mine, let seas and thunders roll, o'er night and me, sands whirl, winds, waters beat, for God's grey earth has no cheap counterfeit. The first step of my analysis is to explore the title Penseroso. The definition from collinsdictionary.com reads, a pensive, brooding, or thoughtful person. You can tell from this poem that Johnson is stating that she wants to leave people behind so she become one with nature. Another interesting detail to note is, if you Google for an analysis of Penseroso by Johnson, you will find one analysis of a poem by this name written by Milton. Well, as it turns out, Wikipedia shares this detail about Johnson, stating that as a child, she became familiar with literary works by Byron, Tennyson, Keats, Browning, and Milton. Whether her direct inspiration came from him, though, is unknown, as there is no set analysis of her poem to begin with. All right, so from the first verse, solace is all humanity to me tonight. My keenest longing is to be alone, alone with God's grey earth that seems pulse of my pulse and consort of my dreams. The repetition here, alone, alone, touches on her desperation, her need to get away. I find it curious that she uses the word gray when describing the earth. This color to me tells of how detached the earth is from people, a neutral and partial color, just as earth is often presented when considering the various plant and animal life that exists upon it. She connects fully with the earth through being as detached and neutral from all that is felt from the soulless humanity. And from the second verse, tonight my soul desires no fellowship or fellow being. Crave I but to slip through space on space till flesh no more can bind, and I may quit for I my fellow kind. She clearly wants to be alone, yet there's more to it. She wants to be completely separate from what makes her human as well, till flesh no more can bind. The last line is intriguing as well. The I, for most of us, is yes, but that isn't what she means here. She was referring instead to the archaic use of the word forever. She seeks to forever remove herself from being a member of humanity. From the third verse, let me but feel athwart my cheek the lash of whipping wind, but hear the torrent dash adown the mountain steep. 'Twere more my choice than touch of human hand and human voice. I love this verse because she is providing details through her senses to show what she would prefer over her connection to humanity. There are two criteria on either side. The lash of wind over human hand. This is what she would rather feel. And the dashing torrent over human voice. And this is what she would rather hear. From the final two verses, let me but wander on the shore night stilled, drinking its darkness till my soul is filled. The breathing of the salt sea on my hair, my outstretched hands but grasping empty air. Let me but feel the pulse of nature's soul, throb on mine, that seas and thunders roll, o'er night and me. Sands whirl, winds, waters beat, for God's grey earth has no cheap counterfeit. I chose to combine my analysis of these because of the use of night in both. In the fourth verse, she is drinking the darkness. In the fifth, she is feeling the pulse of nature's soul. So returning to the first line where she writes, soulless is all humanity to me tonight. She is saying how humanity doesn't have a soul, yet nature does. Nature, built most from the grey earth, disconnected and neutral as it may be, has a clearer soul in her eyes than people. Yet nature possesses this because of its constancy. Throughout this poem, we are presented various details that never waver. From lashing wind to seas and thunders rolling, Yet, what can we say of people? Are people as constant as nature? I will be honest in that I chose this poem because it spoke to me as an introvert, one who seeks to find time alone, away from people. Yet I feel that more than introverts seek this disconnection from society from time to time. In this poem, we have someone escaping. We have someone seeking a neutrality beyond the ever-changing scope of people. Someone who is deep in thought, deep in purpose. Penseroso by Emily Pauline Johnson isn't saying that people are all bad, I don't believe. I believe it is showing how nature can serve as an ally, confidant, when we feel we have no one else. Yet, instead of thinking you have no one else, I beseech you, keep searching. There are souls that are meant to connect with yours. Nature and a greater being assured that when you were born. Have hope, have faith. There's room on this earth for all the pensive, brooding, thoughtful people. Trust me. Thank you.